Peter Thomson, and you may know me as a co-author of a book called Future Work, which was published about 11 years ago now. At the time, we were looking at the way work was about to change. And since then, I've also been running a consultancy called Wise Work, helping organizations think about the changing world of work. And little did I know when we wrote that book that the world of work was going to change rather more suddenly than I was thinking 10 years ago, because, of course, of COVID. And whilst quite a few things have changed over the last decade, probably in the last year to 18 months, more has changed than has in the previous 5 to 10 years. And so when it got to lockdown, and I was thinking about what to do, just as the second lockdown came along, Mark got in touch with me.
Yeah, I can't believe it was a decade ago that Future Work book was published, and you very kindly featured my digital marketing consultancy Word Association as one of the case studies and example of pioneering when it comes to flexible working. Last year I turned 60 and was sat there thinking about my year of thwarted plans to travel and do all sorts of special stuff that was finished as a result of COVID-19. And I spent a lot of time thinking about life, work, what I wanted to do with my future. And for some reason, as part of that sort of time of reflection, I was drawn to you, Peter. I got in touch, and we started talking about different collaborative projects, and tossed around a few ideas and decided they weren't going to work. And from that discussion, our book, Never Going Back, was born. And we started talking about potential contents and the structure of the book. And it became clear to us that something really profound was going on. And this profound change had the potential to be a good thing, unlike almost everything else to do with COVID-19. So we talked some more via Zoom, of course, as we are now, and we became more and more excited by our plans and by Never Going Back.
Yeah, because what excited me was the whole story about how businesses were getting through the initial shock of the whole lockdown, no toilet rolls on the shelves in the supermarkets, and the complete sort of chaos for the first month or so, and then how organizations are actually going to survive, thrive through the whole pandemic. I guess if it had probably only lasted a month or something, then they would have gone back to normal. But now, of course, we realize that there's a revolution happened in the way that people work, and clearly they're not going to go back to the way things were before. So there's a whole change in attitude towards work from individuals, and it's impacting management and leadership. And now, of course, leaders ending up having to do much more leading, inspiring, getting people involved in working remotely, as opposed to leaving things the way they have been for the last couple of hundred years. So a real shock to the system. And technology, of course, has come along and made that easier. And thank goodness, in a way, that the timing of the pandemic was such that people could work remotely. And now we're looking at hybrid working, of course, where people will be partly working from home, partly working in the office, which again is a challenge for organizations and leaders as to how do you lead a hybrid organization. And then there's all the impacts it's had on our health and well-being, the physical changes to the workplace, how it's changing the places we live in, the places people are prepared to live, and so on. So the whole impact on our lives is just amazing, and all of which, of course, makes good content to write a book.
Yeah, and you used the word revolution there earlier, and you do wonder, don't you, if perhaps in a couple of hundred years' time, that people will look back at this time and view it as the hybrid working revolution, perhaps the biggest change in the world of work since the Industrial Revolution. And in our discussions, in our thinking about the content for the book, it became clear that the impacts went a lot further than on the individual or on a business or on management. The impact, for example, on cities is profound, perhaps creating the potential for them to become different kinds of places that are more about people and cars, places where people live and work rather than just go to work. And in the book, we explore the phenomenon called the 15-minute city, which has been pioneered in Paris, but could be coming to our shores. But of course, it goes wider than that, and the impact on our planet. We all glimpsed a greener world in those early weeks of lockdown, and many of us want to make sure that those changes, those opportunities that have come as a result of COVID-19 and the changes in the world of work are things that we can sustain and to make sure carry on, not just for a few months, but for years and decades to come. The book also looks at the role of politicians, and to be fair, the politicians since the beginning of this century have been relatively positive about remote working. We review all of that and look at issues around gender and the sort of macroeconomic situation following COVID-19. And we also bring the book fully up to date. So we're right on the pulse of what's going on now in terms of companies and the decisions they're making around whether workers come back to work 100% of the time, or whether they stay fully at home, or whether they choose a hybrid alternative. So hopefully this video has got you interested in our book. We'd love it if you bought our book. You can find out more about the book on our website, nevergoingbackbook.com. But aside from that, the overall message of our book is we are never going back.